The night sky over Earth was calm, but deep space was not. Far beyond the reach of human eyes, something ancient and powerful was moving. It began with a whisper, an unusual signal, caught by a lonely deep space antenna in the deserts of Australia. The machine was old, but it still listened to the stars. At 02:17 in the morning, it heard a message. The signal was not human. It was too precise, too sharp, too cold. The sound was like metal grinding against metal, followed by a deep, vibrating tone that shook the recording equipment. For 2 long minutes, the tone pulsed. Then, words formed, translated by the station's computers into every known language. Submit or be destroyed. The scientists froze. They had joked for years about aliens sending threats. But hearing those words, in a voice that felt like it had been pulled from the void itself, drained the humor from their faces. Within an hour, the signal was confirmed by stations in Chile, South Africa, and Alaska. The message was real. It was everywhere. News of the signal reached the United Nations before the sun had risen. In a locked, windowless room, world leaders gathered around a glowing holographic display of the solar system. Red icons marked movement, ships, enormous ones, already entering the outer edges of the system. Their path was clear, straight toward Earth. No one spoke at first. It was the kind of silence that belonged to a funeral, not a meeting. Then, the president of one nation broke the stillness. "How long until they reach us?" A general's voice was tight. 3 weeks, maybe less. And there's nothing in our fleet that could stop them. Around the table, the weight of those words pressed down like gravity. 3 weeks until humanity faced something it could not fight. Outside the walls of that meeting, the world remained unaware. People were waking up, drinking coffee, going to work. They didn't yet know that their days might be numbered, but whispers travel fast. By the 3rd day after the signal, rumors spread through the internet. Talk of visitors, invasion, and the end of the world. When the truth could no longer be hidden, governments made an announcement. They didn't say everything, they never do, but they admitted enough. An alien force was coming. The message had been clear: submit or be destroyed. Fear spread faster than the news itself. Stock markets collapsed. Religious leaders called for prayer. Some people filled their cars with supplies and vanished into the countryside. Others went on with life as if nothing had changed, because they didn't want to believe it. Then, strange lights began to appear in the night sky. Not meteors, not satellites. They moved too smoothly, too deliberately. Amateur astronomers posted videos. Online, tiny dots sliding silently across the heavens. Military radar confirmed it. Small ships, ahead of the main fleet, were already in the system. Scouts, watching, waiting. Governments scrambled for a defense. New weapons were rushed from secret labs. Old warships were dragged from storage and sent for refitting. But everyone knew it wouldn't be enough. The alien fleet was massive, larger than anything humanity had imagined. For many, hope began to fade. The thought of surrender didn't seem so impossible anymore. Better to live under alien rule than to be turned into ash. At least, that's what some whispered in the dark. In the middle of this growing despair, something happened that no one expected. It was late at night in New York City when it began. The sky over the Atlantic was clear, filled with stars. Then, without warning, one of those stars vanished. Then another, and another. At first, people thought it was a trick of the clouds, but there were no clouds. The darkness spread in strange, sharp shapes. In moments, an enormous shadow was blotting out the heavens, so vast that it stretched from horizon to horizon. Across the world, other cities saw the same thing. From the deserts of Egypt to the mountains of China, the stars were being swallowed by something black and immense. Astronomers scrambled to focus their telescopes. What they saw made them forget to breathe. It was a fleet, hundreds, maybe thousands, of ships. Sleek, black and sharp-edged, with no running lights, no insignia, no signals. They moved as one, sliding silently into orbit around Earth. They didn't fire weapons. They didn't speak. They just waited. The world's militaries locked onto them instantly. Warnings were broadcast in every language. Stay inside. Do not approach. Fighter jets were scrambled, but they never got close. The black ships ignored them, like a lion ignores flies. In the command centers of Earth's defense forces, tension was unbearable. Who were they? Another enemy? A second invasion force? Or, by some miracle, friends? The alien empire's fleet was still out there, closing the distance, but now there were two unknown forces in play. Humanity was caught in the middle, unable to move, unable to guess what would happen next. In a quiet control room in Tokyo, a communications officer stared at a screen. Something was flashing. Faint, rapid pulses of light from one of the black ships. It was not the Empire's language. It was not like the first message. But it was a message. The officer's hands trembled as she wrote it down. She didn't understand it. Not fully. But there were 3 words she recognized, repeated over and over in perfect English. Wait, we come. The message spread like wildfire through the hidden channels of military networks. What did it mean? Were they promising help? Or warning of something worse? No one knew. The Black Fleet remained silent after that, holding position high above Earth. Days passed. The Empire's fleet grew larger in the sensors, each scan showing more of their terrible size. The ships were the length of cities, armed with weapons that could tear planets apart. Humanity braced itself for the day of impact. Still, the Black Fleet didn't move. People on the streets looked up at the dark shapes in the sky. They were visible even in daylight, vast black scars against the blue. Children pointed at them. Adults looked away. Conspiracy theories exploded. Some claimed the Black Fleet had come to conquer Earth before the Empire could, taking the prize for themselves. Others swore they were ancient protectors, returning to defend their homeworld. No one could prove anything. On the 12th day after the warning signal, the President of the United States addressed the world. His voice was steady, but his eyes told the truth. "We are not alone," he said. "Two forces now stand above us. One has promised our destruction. The other, we do not yet understand. But we will not surrender. We will face what comes together." The speech gave people something to hold onto. But deep inside, everyone knew the real question. Would the Black Fleet fight for Earth or against it? That night, on a frozen mountaintop in Norway, a lone stargazer watched through his telescope. He saw the Empire's ships, still far but closing. Then, for the first time, he saw the Black Fleet move, not toward Earth, but toward the oncoming enemy. A chill ran down his spine. Whatever the Black Fleet was, it was about to meet the Empire, head-on, and humanity could only watch and hope. The Black Fleet had arrived, and everything was about to change. The black ships hung in the sky like shadows that had come alive. They did not move. They did not speak. They simply watched. From the ground, they looked like pieces of the night sky that had fallen and frozen in place. Even in daylight, their shapes were clear, towering hulls of smooth, dark metal that seemed to drink in the sunlight instead of reflecting it. Every hour, Earth's leaders sent new messages toward them. Radio, laser, coded light signals. All went unanswered. The Black Fleet remained silent. In the United Nations Command Center, tension was eating away at the officers. Screens tracked both threats, the Empire's approaching fleet and the motionless Black Armada above Earth. The Empire was now only 10 days away. General Liu of the Earth Defense Network leaned over the central table. "We must assume they are hostile," she said, her voice low but firm. "No one brings a fleet this size without a purpose." Across from her, Admiral Carson shook his head. "And yet they have not attacked. They have the advantage. They could have wiped us out the moment they arrived." The debate continued, but no one had an answer. The truth was, no one on Earth understood the Black Fleet. Meanwhile, down on the streets of the world's great cities, life had changed. People avoided looking at the sky for too long. Shops closed early. The air felt heavier, as if the presence of those ships was pressing down on every living thing. In a small apartment in Rio de Janeiro, a boy named Marco sat by the window every night with his father's binoculars. He didn't understand the fear in the news broadcasts. To him, the ships were beautiful. "They're waiting for something," he told his mother. She only shook her head and told him to sleep. In Washington, D.C., deep underground, intelligence, officers pored over intercepted transmissions from the Black Fleet. There were signals, strange pulses and hums, but they were unlike any human language. Computers tried to decode them, but the patterns were too complex, shifting every few seconds. It was like trying to solve a puzzle that rearranged itself every time you got close. On the 5th day of their arrival, one of the black ships moved. Just a single vessel, longer than 3 aircraft carriers, slid forward from the rest of the formation. It drifted slowly until it was directly above the Indian Ocean. Satellites turned their lenses on it. The hull was covered in faint, glowing patterns that shifted like ripples in water. There were no weapons visible, no engines glowing. It simply hovered there, as if studying the planet below. Then, just as suddenly, it returned to its place in the formation. The incident set off a wave of panic online. People claimed they had seen strange flashes beneath the ocean. Others swore they heard deep, rumbling sounds that shook the ground. Governments issued no comment. Still, the silence continued. The Empire's fleet kept closing in, and the Black Fleet remained motionless. In a secure meeting room, a young analyst named Rhea Kapoor stared at her screen. She had been studying the faint pulses the Black Fleet emitted. Suddenly, she noticed something. A repeating sequence. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. She played it back over and over, and a pattern emerged. Not words, coordinates. Her eyes widened. The coordinates pointed not into space, but to a point deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. She took her findings to her superiors, but they dismissed it. "We have no time for riddles," her commander said. "The Empire will be here in days." But Rhea couldn't let it go. She didn't know what was hidden in the depths of the ocean, but she was certain the Black Fleet knew, and that it mattered. That night, she stayed in the control center long after her shift ended. She watched the Black Fleet on the monitors, their silent, cold shapes drifting above Earth. She had the feeling they were not just watching the planet. They were waiting for something to happen, something only they knew was coming. The first images of the Empire's fleet arrived at dawn. They came from a probe stationed near Jupiter, an old exploration craft that had been reactivated and sent toward the incoming ships. It didn't last long. The feed cut out after only 12 minutes, but in that time, it captured enough to freeze the blood of everyone who saw it. The Empire's fleet was enormous. Their warships were not smooth and elegant like the Black Fleet. They were jagged, brutal constructions of dark metal, bristling with weapons. Some were shaped like blades, others like claws, and they moved in tight formations, a swarm of steel and fire. Each ship was the size of a small city, with glowing engines that burned like molten suns. The probe caught one final image before. It was destroyed, a massive ship, larger than the rest, with a glowing crimson eye at its center. The moment it turned toward the camera, the transmission ended. In command centers across the planet, officers stared at the frozen image. They didn't need to be told what it meant. That red-eyed ship was the flagship, and it was leading the entire armada toward Earth. The estimate was grim. The Empire would reach the moon's orbit in 8 days. The Black Fleet remained still, silent as ever, ignoring every attempt to communicate. Humanity was trapped between an enemy that promised destruction and an unknown force that refused to speak. On Earth, preparation for war began in earnest. Military bases roared to life. Factories ran day and night, producing weapons, armor, and vehicles. Old space stations, long abandoned, were reactivated and armed with missile launchers. In underground bunkers, scientists worked on desperate inventions: energy, shields, high-powered railguns, even experimental gravity weapons. None of it seemed enough. Meanwhile, the Empire's fleet continued its slow, steady advance. Every day, their shapes grew clearer on the telescopes. The smaller ships darted ahead like predators scouting their prey. Sometimes they would stop, holding position for hours before moving again. It was as if they wanted Earth to see them coming, to feel the weight of their approach. In the streets of the world's cities, fear was turning into chaos. Looting broke out in some places. In others, people gathered in huge crowds to pray. Rumors spread. Some claimed the Black Fleet was gone, vanishing into deep space, but those who looked up at the sky knew it wasn't true. The black ships were still there, unmoving, watching. On the 4th day, a strange thing happened. A group of Empire scout ships passed close to the Black Fleet's formation. The world held its breath, expecting a battle. But the black ships did not react. They let the scouts pass unharmed, as if they didn't care. This silence made Earth's leaders even more uneasy. If the Black Fleet truly intended to help, why wait? Why let the enemy draw so close? In a dimly lit conference room beneath London, Prime Minister Adele Ford asked the question everyone was thinking. Are they waiting for the Empire to strike first? Or are they letting them through? No one answered. On the 7th day, the first direct act of aggression occurred. A massive Empire destroyer broke formation and fired on one of Earth's defense satellites. The satellite exploded in a silent flash of light. The world watched the footage on their screens, knowing it was only the beginning. That night, the Empire's flagship sent out a new signal. It was not a threat this time. It was an offer. Surrender within 2 days. Destroy your weapons. Accept our rule. Resistance will mean total annihilation. The message played on repeat across every channel, every frequency, in every language. And still the Black Fleet said nothing. High above the planet, their dark shapes hung in silence, like predators crouched in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike or betray. The Black Fleet had been silent for 12 days. 12 long, breathless days since their sudden arrival over Earth. They had neither attacked nor defended. They had simply existed, as if the planet below was nothing more than an object to be observed. But on the 13th day, everything changed. It began without warning. At exactly 03:14 UTC, one of the black ships broke formation. Slowly, it slid away from the others, its hull swallowing the starlight as it moved. The vessel was enormous, so large that it took up the entire field of view on tracking screens. Its course was steady and deliberate, heading toward geostationary orbit above the African continent. Every radar dish on the planet locked onto it. Fighters were scrambled, but they were ordered to keep their distance. No one wanted to provoke it. In the control room of the Earth Defense Network, voices overlapped as officers tracked its movement. Still no transmissions, one reported. No change in energy readings, another said. The tension was so heavy it seemed to slow the air itself. Then, a signal. It was a single sharp pulse of sound, deep and resonant, like the toll of a distant bell. All communication systems, military, civilian, even private devices, went dead for exactly 3 seconds. When they came back online, a voice spoke. It was not a human voice, but neither was it mechanical. It was something in between, calm, cold, and impossibly clear. "We came for the same enemy you fear." The words echoed across every screen, every speaker, every headset in orbit and on the ground. For a long moment, no one moved. The message. Repeated, but this time, more followed. "We are not your enemy. We are of you, though not from you. Stand aside and live." The phrase, "we are of you," sent a ripple of confusion through every listening ear. Scientists and linguists scrambled to interpret it. Did it mean they were human, or something that had once been human? The black ship held position for exactly 1 hour after the transmission, its massive shadow stretching across the curve of the Earth. Then, as silently as it had come, it returned to the fleet's formation. The debates began instantly. Some believed the Black Fleet had come as allies, warning Earth to stand clear while they fought the Empire. Others were certain it was a lie, that they would destroy the Empire only to take the planet for themselves. In secret, the leaders of Earth met once more. It was in this meeting that the truth, or at least part of it, came out. A historian from the Pacific Union brought forward a record, an old one, thought to be myth. It told of a colony ship launched from Earth centuries ago, one that vanished, without a trace. The ship's name was Erebus. If the story was true, then the Black Fleet's crews might be descendants of humans, children of Earth who had been lost to the stars, forged into warriors in some distant war. But if that was the case, why had they never returned until now? No answers came. The Black Fleet offered no further words. The Empire's fleet was now only 6 days away. As the sun set over the Pacific, that night, millions of people looked up at the sky. The stars seemed fewer than they had before, swallowed by the great black shapes drifting silently above. For the first time since the warning signal, a sliver of hope began to creep into some hearts. But for others, the silence of the Black Fleet was still more terrifying than the voice of the Empire. High above the Earth, between two forces on the edge of war, humanity waited. For centuries, the story of the Erebus had been little more than a ghost in human history. It was said to be one of the first great colony ships, launched in the early days of deep space travel. Its mission was simple: to carry thousands of settlers to a new home among the stars. But somewhere beyond the edge of the mapped galaxy, the Erebus disappeared. No distress signal, no debris, no trace. For generations, the loss was mourned. But as the years turned into centuries, the ship became a legend, a tale told to children about the dangers of the void. Now the legend had returned in the form of the Black Fleet. After the mysterious transmission, "We are of you, though not from you." Earth's historians and archivists searched through ancient records. They found fragments, old ship logs, incomplete star maps, faded personal journals from the families of those who had boarded the Erebus. One entry, barely readable, stood out. "If we cannot reach the new world, we will keep going. The galaxy is wide, and somewhere there must be a place for us." But what happened after that final log was a mystery. In the Earth Defense Network headquarters, the historian Dr. Evelyn Herron addressed the gathered leaders. If the Black Fleet truly came from the Erebus, they have been away for over 400 years. In that time, they could have become something else, something shaped by war, by survival in places we cannot imagine. She paused, letting her words settle. They may still call themselves human, but we should not expect them to think like us. No one argued. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Black Fleet remained motionless until the morning of the 4th day after their transmission. Then, without warning, one of their smaller ships descended from the formation and entered Earth's atmosphere. It moved fast, too fast for interceptors to catch, but it did not attack. Instead, It hovered high over the Pacific Ocean, near the coordinates that Rhea Kapoor had discovered earlier. From the shorelines of small islands, fishermen watched the dark shape blot out the sun. It lingered for exactly 20 minutes, then climbed back into the sky and rejoined the fleet. But something had changed. Shortly after the ship's return, a new signal reached Earth. This one was encrypted, using a cipher so old that it dated back to the earliest days of space exploration. Only a handful of specialists even recognized it. When decrypted, the message contained a single sentence: "Your blood remembers us." It was the final piece of the puzzle. The Black Fleet was not alien at all, not in the way the Empire was. They were human, born from the same origin, carrying the same history in their veins, and yet they were strangers, children abandoned by time, shaped into warriors by battles far beyond Earth's knowledge. The discovery brought mixed feelings. Some celebrated, believing that humanity had found powerful allies. Others warned that family could still become enemy, and that blood ties meant little in the face of survival. Far out in the darkness, the Empire's fleet continued to advance. The countdown to their arrival reached 5 days. In the streets, people looked up at the Black Fleet with new eyes. They were no longer just mysterious ships in the sky. They were lost brothers and sisters, returned from a journey that spanned centuries, but whether they had come home to protect or to conquer was still unknown. The decision to reach out to the Black Fleet was not made easily. Even with the truth of their human origin now known, trust was a fragile thing. 400 years of separation could turn family into strangers and strangers into enemies. But the Empire was only 4 days away. There was no time left for hesitation. In a secure chamber beneath Geneva, the leaders of Earth's nations met with the Earth Defense Network's highest commanders. The debate was fierce. Some argued that an alliance with the Black Fleet was the only chance for survival. Others warned that inviting them into Earth's defenses was like opening the gates to a wolf. Finally, the vote was taken. The message would be sent. The transmission was short and direct. "We face the same enemy. Stand with us. Fight beside us. Protect our home as you would your own." Hours passed with no reply. The silence pressed on every mind like a weight. Then, just before midnight UTC, the Black Fleet moved. From the shadows above the atmosphere, one of the largest ships descended. Its hull shimmered with faint lines of silver as it entered low orbit. A narrow beam of light extended from its underside, reaching down to a landing zone in the Nevada desert, an airbase long closed to the public. A team of soldiers, scientists, and translators waited as the ship touched the ground with a sound, like thunder rolled through metal. A ramp unfolded, and figures emerged. They were human, at least in shape. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing black armor that seemed grown rather than built. Their faces were pale, their eyes sharp and cold, as if they had been carved from ice. The one who stepped forward removed their helmet. A woman's face, marked with faint silver lines along the skin, regarded the gathered humans. "I am Captain Sarah Vey," she said, her voice carrying the same strange clarity as the earlier transmission. "Our ancestors left this world in the vessel Erebus. We have fought the Empire for generations. If you stand, we will stand with you." The words sent a ripple of relief and fear through the humans present. Over the next hours, the Black Fleet shared what Earth had never seen before. Schematics of alien weaponry, battle strategies refined over centuries, and technologies that could turn Earth's aging warships into far deadlier machines. Joint training began immediately. Black Fleet warriors drilled Earth's soldiers in tactics designed for fighting the Empire: swift strikes, precision targeting, and ruthless efficiency. Engineers worked side by side to retrofit Earth's defenses with advanced shielding and weapon systems. Yet beneath the cooperation, unease lingered. The Black Fleet never revealed their full strength. They spoke little of their past, and nothing of their true intentions after the war. Still, for the first time since the warning signal, Earth had hope. Above the planet, the once still Black Fleet began to shift, its ships spreading into strategic positions. The Empire would arrive in 3 days. And when they did, Earth would not face them alone. The Empire was now only 2 days away. Their main fleet still advanced in the darkness beyond the moon's orbit, but their scouts had already entered the inner system. Small compared to the flagships, yet still deadly, these vessels moved with the confidence of predators. Earth's long-range sensors picked them up near Mars, fast-moving shapes, cutting through the void in perfect formation. The Black Fleet noticed them too. Without hesitation, 3 of their ships broke away from Earth's orbit, gliding silently into the blackness between worlds. From the ground, no one could see the battle, but in command centers around the planet, every screen lit up with real-time feeds from orbital satellites. The Empire's scouts changed course as soon as they detected the approaching Black Fleet ships. Instead of retreating, they accelerated, eager for the kill. The clash happened in the emptiness beyond the asteroid belt. There was no warning, no ritual of threats, only sudden violence. The Black Fleet struck first, beams of dark, shimmering. Energy tore through the void, moving faster than any human missile. They didn't explode on impact. They simply sliced through the Empire ships as if cutting through paper. One scout ship split in half instantly, its burning fragments spinning. Into the dark, the other Empire vessels returned fire, hurling bolts of searing plasma. But the Black Fleet's ships danced through the void with impossible precision, twisting and turning in ways no human craft could match. Their hulls shimmered as energy barriers absorbed the incoming fire. In less than 2 minutes, it was over. The last surviving Empire scout tried to flee, but a single black spear of light from the lead ship struck its engine core. It didn't explode, it simply went dark, drifting lifeless into the endless night. Back on Earth, the reaction was immediate. Military commanders stared at the combat data in disbelief. The Black Fleet hadn't just won, they had annihilated the enemy with ease. Captain Sarah Vey returned to the Nevada base shortly after. Her words to the human commanders were blunt. "That was a scouting party. The real warships will not fall so easily." Still, the victory sent waves of cautious hope across the planet. People whispered that maybe, just maybe, the Black Fleet could do what Earth could not: stand against the Empire. Above the atmosphere, the Black Fleet tightened its formation. Their ships glowed faintly now, their weapons charged and ready. The Empire's main fleet was less than 48 hours away. The first blood had been drawn. Victory over the Empire's scouts brought relief to Earth, but it also brought something else: attention. The destruction of the scouting party had not gone unnoticed. Deep in the void, the Empire's main fleet adjusted its formation, accelerating toward the planet. The time for quiet preparation was ending. But while everyone looked to the sky for danger, no one saw the threat already hiding among them. It began with a small anomaly. During a routine check of encrypted communications, a young analyst named Kaito Tanaka noticed that a secure transmission from the Nevada base had been rerouted through an unusual relay. At first, he thought it was a glitch, but the more he traced the signal, the more his stomach turned cold. The message hadn't just been delayed, it had been copied, and the copy had been sent toward deep space, directly toward the approaching Empire fleet. The discovery spread quickly through the Earth. Defense network. Security teams swept through the Nevada base, searching for the leak. The Black Fleet's officers were informed, their expressions unreadable behind those pale, sharp faces. Hours later, the traitor was found. Not a soldier, but a systems technician. His name was Leonard Hayes, a man with no combat training, but full access to classified data. When confronted, he didn't deny it. His hands trembled as he explained himself. "They're going to win," he said, his voice hollow. "The Empire. They can't be stopped. I made a deal. They promised to let me live if I gave them information about the Black Fleet." The room went silent. Sci-Fi stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were like frozen steel. "The Empire will not spare you. They would kill you as soon as you have no more to give. You have doomed yourself, and you risk this world in the process." Haze was taken away, but the damage was already done. No one knew how much the Empire had learned. Some feared they now had details about the Black Fleet's weaponry or positions. That night, a strange unease settled over the Joint Command. Earth's soldiers began to wonder if more spies were hidden among them. The Black Fleet's officers became even more guarded, speaking in their own coded language when humans were nearby. And above them, the Empire's fleet kept coming. Less than 36 hours away now. In the shadows of the Nevada base, Kaito Tanaka stood alone, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, the enemy now knew more than they should. Somewhere, an invisible hand was tipping the balance of the coming war. He didn't know it yet, but this betrayal would cost lives before the first great battle even began. The Empire's fleet was now close enough to be seen with the naked eye, tiny glimmers of silver and crimson moving against the stars. Telescopes revealed their jagged shapes in chilling detail. They were not coming quietly anymore. They wanted the world to see them arrive. On the 35th hour before contact, every screen on Earth went black. Phones, televisions, billboards, even military monitors, one by one they all turned to static. Then the voice came. It was deep, cold, and inhuman, speaking in every language at once, the words crawling into the ears of every living person. People of Earth. Your time is over. Submit within 1 day. Destroy your weapons. Abandon your defenses. Accept our rule, and some of you may be spared. The message paused, as if letting the weight of the words sink in before continuing. Resist, and your cities will burn. Your oceans will boil. Your planet will be ash. When the transmission ended, the screens flickered back to life, but the silence that followed was worse than the message itself. In the underground command bunker in Geneva, Earth's leaders argued over the response. Some wanted to negotiate, hoping to stall for time. Others insisted that the Empire would never honor any deal, that surrender was just a slower death. Sci-Fi of the Black Fleet stood apart from the debate, her arms crossed. When the room finally quieted, she spoke. The Empire gives ultimatums because they want fear. Fear makes you hesitate. Hesitation makes you weak. When they arrive, there will be no more words, only fire. Her warning was not an exaggeration. Reports came in that Empire ships had already attacked several of Jupiter's orbital stations, reducing them to drifting wreckage. By midnight, the final decision was made. Earth would not surrender. The official reply to the Empire's ultimatum was short and clear. We will fight. That answer was sent out on every frequency, every channel, every signal relay in the solar system. Whether it would inspire courage or doom was yet to be seen. Above the planet, the Black Fleet began to move, breaking their silent formation for the first time since arriving. Ships shifted into defensive positions, aligning with Earth's orbital defenses. Their weapons glowed faintly, casting ghostly light across the night sky. The Empire's fleet was less than a day away. The air on Earth felt heavier, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. The time for words had ended. The time for war had begun. The day of battle began without sunrise. Above Earth, the Empire's fleet blotted out the stars, casting long shadows across the planet. They came in numbers no human commander had ever imagined. Hundreds of warships, their jagged hulls glinting red in the light of the sun, alarms wailed in every city, civil defense networks activated, directing millions toward underground shelters. Across the oceans, Earth's fleets took position, their missiles loaded, their railguns primed. In orbit, the Black Fleet formed a spear-shaped wall between the Empire and the planet. It was Sarah Vey who gave the first order. All ships, weapons free. Strike hard. Strike fast. The void erupted. Black beams from the Black Fleet lanced into the Empire's front lines, cutting through enemy warships before they could return fire. Earth's missiles followed seconds later, streaking upward from the surface in bright arcs before vanishing into the darkness above. Explosions bloomed like silent flowers in the vacuum of space. But the Empire was not unprepared. From their lead ships, swarms of smaller craft poured out, fast attack fighters that moved like a living storm. They weaved between incoming fire, diving toward Earth's orbital defenses. The first line of satellites went down in minutes, shattered into debris. On the ground, radar operators watched their screens bleed red as enemy fighters broke through the upper atmosphere. The Black Fleet responded instantly. Sleek interceptors detached from the larger warships, chasing the enemy in dizzying spirals above the clouds. Battles ignited in the sky, streaks of black and silver weaving between the faint blue curve of Earth and the burning glow of plasma, fire. In the Nevada base, Kaito Tanaka monitored enemy formations, his voice tense as he relayed coordinates to both human and Black Fleet commanders. Every second mattered. A missed call-out could mean a city lost. Then came the first hit. Over the Pacific, an Empire warship's plasma barrage slipped past the defenses and struck an Earth carrier group. 2 destroyers vanished in fire before. They could even launch counterattacks. On the command channel, Sarah Vey's voice was sharp. "Hold the line. If they break through here, it is over." And still, the Empire pushed forward. Their fleet advanced slowly, but relentlessly, like a tidal wave that could not be stopped. Every kilometer gained was paid for in blood and wreckage. By the 6th hour of battle, neither side had claimed victory, but Earth's defenses were starting to crack. The Black Fleet fought with terrifying skill, yet even they could not be everywhere at once. In the skies above, burning fragments of ships, human and alien alike, fell like meteors. And far in the distance, the Empire's largest warships, untouched and waiting, still had not fired their main weapons. The real storm was yet to come. For hours, the battle raged across space and sky. Wreckage drifted in orbit, glowing faintly from lingering heat. Ships burned in the upper atmosphere, falling like dying stars. Both sides had taken heavy losses, yet neither would retreat. Then, without warning, the Empire's front line began to pull back. At first, Earth's commanders thought it was a retreat. Cheers erupted in some control rooms, but Sarah Vey's voice cut through the noise, sharp and cold. "They're not retreating. They're making room." A shadow moved in the distance. Larger than any ship yet seen, it emerged from the darkness like a rising mountain of metal. It was so vast it seemed to block the sun for a moment, casting an unnatural eclipse over the battlefield. The Empire's flagship, the harbinger of worlds, had arrived. Its hull was covered in jagged black and crimson plates, each one glowing with the faint heat of unimaginable energy. Dozens of massive cannons lined its sides, but at its core was a single weapon, a giant circular aperture at the bow, pulsing with growing light. Across every comm channel, a new voice echoed, deep, mocking, confident. Your resistance was entertaining. Now it ends. Sensors screamed warnings as the harbinger's weapon charged. The Black Fleet scrambled to reposition, forming a defensive wall. Their ships fired relentlessly at the giant, but the beams seemed to bend away, absorbed into its shimmering shield. Then the weapon fired. It was not a beam, but a torrent, a wave of energy so bright It left after-images in the eyes of everyone who saw it. The blast tore through an entire Black Fleet formation, erasing 5 ships in an instant. The shockwave sent others spinning out of control, their hulls cracked and venting atmosphere. On Earth, entire cities watched the flash streak across the sky, not knowing if they were next. Sarah Vay's voice was fierce, almost a growl. "All units, concentrate fire on that weapon. If it charges again, this planet will not survive." Every remaining ship, human and Black Fleet alike, turned their weapons toward the Harbinger. The void became a storm of light and fire. Still, the giant advanced, unstoppable, each step bringing it closer to Earth. In the Nevada base, Kaito Tanaka's hands shook as he read the incoming data. "The shield, it's holding. We can't break it." And then quietly, he saw something strange on his screen. A fluctuation deep within the Harbinger's power core. It was small, almost invisible. But it was a weakness. Whether they could reach it before the next shot was fired, no one knew. Kaito Tanaka's eyes locked on the strange reading. The Harbinger's shield was flawless against direct hits, but something, deep inside the giant ship, was out of rhythm. It was a tiny flicker in its power core, a split-second drop in energy every time the main weapon charged. He didn't hesitate. "Command, I found something. There's a gap in their shields when they prepare to fire. It's small, less than 3 seconds. But if we hit that exact moment, it might get through." The control room went silent for a heartbeat. Then, Sarah Vay's voice cut in. "Send me the timing, I'll make sure our ships are ready." In orbit, the Black Fleet regrouped, pulling damaged ships into defensive positions while the remaining strike craft prepared for a run. The plan was dangerous, almost suicidal. To hit the core, a ship would have to fly directly into the Harbinger's firing arc, timing its attack perfectly in those 3 seconds. One mistake, and they'd be vaporized. Captain Joran, commander of the Black Fleet's fastest assault frigate, volunteered. His voice came over the channel, calm but grim. "If we miss, you won't have time for another try. Keep them firing at me. Make them look at the wrong target until it's too late." The enemy seemed to sense the change in the Black Fleet's movements. The Harbinger began charging its weapon again, the glowing aperture brightening like a second sun. Smaller Empire ships moved to shield it, forming a deadly barrier of plasma fire. Earth's forces opened up with everything they had. Railguns, missiles, energy beams, every weapon lit the void, hammering at the escorts. Explosions tore them apart, but more kept coming. Through the chaos, Joran's frigate darted forward, weaving between bursts of enemy fire, moving so fast it seemed to blur. The Harbinger's weapon reached full power. The airless battlefield felt like it was holding its breath. Kaito's voice came over the comm, urgent. "Now, 3 seconds, mark!" Joran's ship fired a single shot. One brilliant lance of energy aimed straight at the Harbinger's glowing core. It struck just as the shields flickered. For a moment, it seemed to vanish. And then the light inside the Harbinger flared, wildly. The massive ship staggered, its weapons charge breaking apart into chaotic arcs of energy. Explosions rippled across its surface as systems overloaded. But it was not destroyed. Not yet. Sarah's voice came through, hard and urgent. "They're hurt. Now we finish this." The final strike was about to begin. The Harbinger was wounded, but it was far from beaten. Fire burned along its jagged hull, and parts of its outer armor had been torn away, revealing pulsing machinery beneath. Yet its massive frame still moved forward, and its remaining weapons were as deadly as ever. Sarah Vay wasted no time. "All ships, full assault! Every weapon, every missile, now!" The Black Fleet surged forward like a wave of black steel. Earth's warships followed, launching their last reserves of missiles. The void became a storm of light, explosions flashing in every direction. Inside the Harbinger, the enemy scrambled to stabilize its power core. But the earlier hit had damaged more than they realized. The great ship's own systems fought against. each other sparks and energy arcs tearing through its interior. The Empire's smaller vessels threw themselves into the fight, trying to shield their flagship. Some rammed directly into Black Fleet ships, sacrificing themselves to slow the attack. But the defenders were desperate now, and desperation could not stop the momentum building against them. Captain Joran, still at the front of the assault, took the lead again. His frigate was badly damaged, half its systems offline, but he didn't slow down. "I'll open the way! Cover me!" Two Black Fleet cruisers moved in beside him, taking the brunt of the Harbinger's turret fire. Their shields collapsed under. The impact and both ships exploded in blinding bursts, but their sacrifice cleared a narrow path straight to the enemy's exposed core. On Earth, millions watched the live feed from orbital drones. The image of the Harbinger, burning and defiant, filled every screen. The moment had come. Joran's frigate charged into the gap, its engines screaming. Inside, alarms blared, and the hull shook from incoming fire. His weapons officer locked onto the core and armed the last payload. A high-density plasma warhead designed for planetary bombardment. Firing! The warhead streaked toward the Harbinger's heart. For a moment, the enemy's shields tried to form, and then failed. The explosion tore through the giant center, ripping it apart from the inside. Energy from the unstable core burst outward, splitting the Harbinger's massive frame into molten fragments. The shock waves sent debris spinning across the battlefield, smashing into smaller ships and scattering them like leaves in a storm. When the light faded, the Harbinger was gone. Only drifting wreckage remained. The Empire's remaining ships hesitated, then broke formation and fled into the dark. The battle for Earth was over. But as Sarah Vey looked at the retreating enemy, her voice was low. "They'll be back, and next time, we may not be ready." The battlefield above Earth was silent now. Where moments before there had been blinding flashes and roaring explosions, there was only drifting debris, the broken bones of ships that had once carried thousands of lives. From the surface, the night sky was streaked with burning trails as fragments of the Harbinger and smaller enemy vessels fell into the atmosphere. Some burned up harmlessly, others slammed into oceans or wastelands, sending up waves and clouds of dust. Earth had survived, but at a terrible cost. In cities across the planet, people emerged from shelters, their eyes drawn upward. They had no words for what they saw, only the deep relief of still being alive. But joy was mixed with sorrow. The news channels began to list the names of lost ships, both Black Fleet and human. Families searched for missing loved ones. Rescue. Crews worked around the clock, pulling survivors from shattered orbital stations. In the Black Fleet's flagship, Sarah Vey stood on the bridge, looking out at the wreckage. The victory felt hollow. Her fleet had been cut to half its size. Many of the commanders she trusted most were gone. Still, she knew there was no time to mourn. Not yet. Kaito Tanaka arrived with new data. "We tracked the retreating ships. They jumped into deep space, but not toward their home territory. They're regrouping somewhere else." Sarah's gaze hardened. "Then they have another plan. They won't give up Earth easily." Down on Earth, governments scrambled to rebuild. Defenses. Factories shifted entirely to producing weapons and repair parts for orbital platforms. The world had united for this battle. But as the days passed, old rivalries began to resurface. In the shadows, whispers spread of strange signals coming from the outer system. Some said it was just leftover transmissions from the Empire's retreat. Others feared it was something worse. In a quiet moment, Sarah sent a private message to Earth's leaders. "The Black Fleet will remain in your orbit, for now, but prepare yourselves. This was only the first wave." And far beyond the reach of Earth's sensors, in the cold dark between the stars, something vast was moving. Weeks passed since the Harbinger's destruction. Earth's skies were calmer now, its orbit ringed with the watchful shapes of Black Fleet ships and repaired human stations. Cities rebuilt, scars on the land slowly fading, but the memory of the battle remained in every heart. On the surface, life tried to return to normal. Children returned to schools, markets reopened. The hum of industry filled the air again. Yet, the people looked to the stars with new eyes, knowing danger could fall from the sky at any moment. In the Black Fleet's flagship, Sci-Fi studied a holographic map of the galaxy. Lines of red light marked the Empire's known territory, except now, there were new marks, deep in uncharted space. These were the places where the retreating enemy ships had gathered. Kaito Tanaka's voice was low as he pointed to the largest cluster. "We've been intercepting encrypted transmissions. The message keeps repeating. The Armada comes." Before Sarah could reply, a sensor officer broke in. "Ma'am, new contact. Multiple jumps detected at the edge of the system." The hologram shifted, showing distant flashes in the dark. Dozens of signatures appeared, then hundreds. The readings were massive, larger even than the Harbinger's fleet. The comm channels crackled with strange, rhythmic pulses, unlike anything heard before. A chill ran through the crew. These ships were not the same as the ones they had just fought. Their shapes were alien, spiked and angular, glowing with deep crimson light. Syrah's eyes narrowed. That's not the Empire. The Black Fleet moved into combat positions. Earth's defense stations powered up, missile bays opening. Across the planet, alarms sounded, sending civilians to shelters once more. Then, through the static, a voice, calm, ancient and cold, echoed in every frequency. "We are the architects. This system belongs to us. Prepare for cleansing." In the quiet that followed, Sarah gave the order. "All ships, brace for the storm," and in the distance, like a rising tide of darkness, the new enemy advanced.